Hi everybody, Dan Joseph with MRC-TV. I'm here with Guy Benson. You probably know him from Fox News. He has a new book out, End of Discussion. It's been out since June, right?
Yes.
All right, now tell me, there are a lot of conservative books out there. What makes this one different?
Well, I think first and foremost, two things. The subject matter. This is not just a nonstop attack on the Obama administration or on Hillary Clinton, although those are worthwhile books to buy and to read and to write. What we're talking about is the sort of sorry, dysfunctional state of our national conversation about almost everything, and how the left in particular is increasingly trying to win political debates and cultural debates by preventing those debates from happening. They are impugning motives. They are trying to disqualify and demonize and delegitimize rather than actually reason and have conversations. So what we argue in End of Discussion is if we can't have sort of reason-based discussions and debates amongst ourselves on the issues that matter, then we're really sunk. So that's the subject matter, and then the other one is the tone. We wrote this book, even though it's about phony outrage to a large extent, we didn't write it in an outraged fashion. It's a fun read. We like to think it's a funny read. We've gotten some good feedback on that.
You guys were very funny up there when we were talking to you guys. I mean, you approach it with a very, very lighthearted sense, even though it's a very serious issue. Now, here's one of these things that I just learned about, this new word, microaggression.
That's right.
That keeps coming up, and I didn't even know what it meant when I first saw it. What is microaggression, and how is it playing a role in this debate?
Sure. So microaggressions are basically defined as anything that might offend anyone for any reason. That's really what it means, and it's used particularly on college campuses to say, a slight or an insult that is so subtle that you can really claim offense or a grievance on anything. And so it's basically this pseudo-scientific term for I don't like hearing something makes me feel uncomfortable in some way, therefore it's a microaggression, therefore the person who is doing the microaggressing is at fault or needs to be censured or silenced for some reason, and that's one of the lexicon of silencing terms that are employed particularly on college campuses.
Let me ask you this, because I went through college and it wasn't as bad as it is now, I don't think, but you saw a little bit of that, especially with the gay and lesbian groups. Mm-hmm. Are they really offended, or is their major goal just to silence the opposition? I mean, if somebody says something obviously that would now be considered microaggression, are they really upset? Are they going into the dorm rooms and crying? Or are they seriously pissed off? Or is this just a way to make conservative ideas and to make the opposition, to get them gone, to get them out of the picture?
Well, we argue it's mostly the latter. There are some times when people are genuinely offended. And by the way, we don't argue for rudeness in End of Discussion, right? Like, if you do something or say something that you think maybe pushed the line or was insensitive or mean, and you feel like, apologize genuinely. Sure. But don't apologize for things that you don't feel sorry for. And we talk about a phenomenon called cultural flopping in End of Discussion, which is sort of from soccer, where a guy goes down and he grabs his shin and he wants the call from the ref. He doesn't get it. And then he pops back up and runs off because he was play acting.
He was faking.
I think that's true of a lot of the offense that people take. It is faux outrage, feigned offense, with the goal of making someone feel guilty and sort of police their rhetoric to the liking of the individual who is claiming to be offended.
Let's hypothetically say that Hillary Clinton becomes the nominee for the Democratic Party. How does this microaggression manifest itself in the election that's coming up?
Well, I think what she will definitely do, and we're seeing it very frequently, is when she's in trouble, she goes back to the woman thing, the woman card. And we have a chapter on sort of women's rights, the war on women. The name of the chapter is actually The Vagina Demagogues.
Oh boy.
And sort of a play on the vagina monologues.
Right.
And that is her sort of refuge. We're like, by the way, ignore all these scandals over here, ignore my record over here, ignore my unwillingness to take positions on a whole host of issues.
I am historic.
First woman president.
Right.
And I think a good example of this was recently she was criticizing the Republicans, and she said, what those guys are saying, and she said, and they are all guys, by the way. And then she had just forgotten about Carla Fiorina.
Right.
And what I pointed out on Twitter was like, let's talk about the Democratic field. Mm-hmm. It's Hillary Clinton, and then
5 white guys.
White guys, right.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely going to be like the woman card. Republicans need to be ready for it.
Right. Okay, now last question. This was hilarious when you mentioned it in there. The Cards Against Humanity. Please explain that and how that sort of played into this whole microaggression idea and how it plays so well into your book, End of Discussion.
Yeah, so the subtitle of End of Discussion talks about how this outrage culture is making America less free on a whole variety of levels, but also less fun. And we have a chapter on the war on comedy and how the left is really coming after comedians and trying to censor jokes and ban entire topics from being joked about and making the country, they are robbing us of laughter. And one of the examples that we cite in that chapter in End of Discussion is this game, Cards Against Humanity, which is sort of a late night, not officially a drinking game, but
you're usually drinking when you play it.
The way it works is you have these cards, and every card has something written on it that is pretty offensive.
Right.
Like there are Holocaust references, there are all sorts of racial jokes and references, gay stuff. I mean, it's every white people, so every single group of human being on the planet basically is not spared.
But that's what makes it fun.
Right, it's Cards Against
Humanity.
All of humanity, and you try to match up cards in the most offensive way possible.
So what happened that made this game all of a sudden part of this cultural
there
war?
was a transgender teenager who said that there was a trans-related joke in one of the cards, that was offended to him. So he did the offensive to him. So he did this whole ritual burning of the card and said this is transphobic and the Cards Against Humanity company basically apologized and said, oh yeah, we're sorry about that one.
And they took the card out.
And they took it out. They discontinued the card in the game. And we're like, first of all, the whole point of the game is to offend. That's the whole point of the game.
Right.
So to start censoring and eliminating cards based on offense, you'll have to get rid of the whole game if this is the path we're going down. And also on sort of a slightly more philosophical level, or like a meta level, the game is called Cards Against Humanity because all of humanity is targeted and made fun of, and we're laughing at all of ourselves. And to extricate one part of humanity from the deck is almost to say, you're not really part of the rest of humanity.
It's almost an insult. It's in a backwards way.
Right, and so we just think that is such a mistake. And again, where you can get one offended party and have an entire game change the way they operate because of an activist on Twitter pretending to be offended.
Get the game soon because it might be completely off the shelves in a couple years, right?
They'll ban that thing eventually.
All right, Guy Benson, the book is End of Discussion, written with Mary Catherine Ham. Thank you so much for your time.